I step into the grand ballroom of the Evergreen Resort and immediately wish I hadn't come. Chandeliers drip crystal light across marble floors, and wealth whispers through the room in hushed tones of respect. Michael's hand finds the small of my back, steadying me with the gentle pressure of his palm. Breathe, he whispers, his surgeon's eyes assessing me with clinical precision. We earned our place here. Leo tugs at his bow tie, his 6-year-old patience already wearing thin. Mom, this thing is trying to choke me. I kneel, adjusting the offending fabric with a smile. Just for a little while, buddy. Remember our deal, good behavior now, swimming pool after. The reception crowd parts briefly, and my heart stops. A familiar profile catches my eye, the slight tilt of her head, the way she leans forward when she laughs. I haven't seen that gesture in 11 years, but my body remembers it instantly. The bride turns, champagne glass raised in a toast, and our eyes lock across the room. Grace. My sister. The champagne flute trembles slightly in my hand, the only outward sign of the earthquake happening inside me. I hadn't recognized the name Daniel Brooks in the invitation. I hadn't made the connection. I'd assumed Grace was still using our family name Collins. Her gasp cuts through the ambient conversation like a blade. Heads turn. The music continues, but a bubble of silence forms around us, stretching across the divide. Behind her, Mother's face drains of color, then flushes crimson. Father moves protectively toward Grace, his broad shoulders creating a barrier between us just as he's done all our lives. What are you doing here? Mother hisses, loud enough that nearby guests turn with curious eyes. The familiar shame rises in my throat. For a heartbeat, I'm 21 again, standing in the rain with a suitcase, homeless and alone. Michael steps forward, his voice firm but measured. My wife is a guest. She's the CEO of MedNova. We were personally invited by the groom. The name MedNova ripples through the cluster of medical professionals nearby. I hear whispers, see recognition dawn in their eyes. CEO? A woman in a burgundy dress turns to her companion. That's Amber Collins? The rain soaks through my thin jacket as Father's words echo in my memory. If you're too ungrateful to help at the clinic, don't come back. The slam of our front door punctuates his sentence, final as a judge's gavel. Now, I stand straight-backed in Valentino, the rain a distant memory. The scared girl is gone. In her place stands a woman who built something from nothing, who refused to disappear. Dr. Daniel Brooks approaches, confusion creasing his brow. His gaze darts between Grace's frozen face and my composed one. You know the CEO of MedNova? He directs this question to my parents, then turns to me with growing interest. We've been trying to partner with them for months. Your patient monitoring system is revolutionizing post-surgical care. Grace attempts a smile, but it falters at the edges. Mother and father exchange glances loaded with panic. The whispers among the wedding guests grow louder, more insistent. I could make a scene. I could expose 11 years of lies. I could tell Daniel how they told everyone I'd failed out of college, how they'd painted me as irresponsible while pocketing my tuition money for Grace's benefit. The power is finally mine. Instead, I simply say, "Hello, Grace. Congratulations." The simplicity lands like a thunderclap. Grace flinches as if I'd shouted. Michael's hand returns to my back. A silent question. Stay or go? Leo looks up at me, innocent to the undercurrents swirling around us. Mom, is that lady in the white dress your friend? Daniel's gaze sharpens. He looks between Grace and me, his new bride and the stranger who clearly isn't a stranger. Grace. His voice carries confusion and the first notes of suspicion. I thought you said your sister was. His voice trails off, the unfinished sentence hanging between us. Grace's eyes dart frantically between her new husband and her parents. For the first time in my life, I watch her struggle for words. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately regretted it? The smart move would be to grab my family and quietly slip away. Let Grace have her perfect day. Let sleeping dogs lie. But sometimes regret is just fear wearing a mask. And I stopped being afraid a long time ago. And this is my wife, Grace. Daniel beams, his arms sliding around her waist. Stanford graduate and the brilliant mind managing her family's medical practice back in Vermont. I stand 10 feet away, my champagne untouched, watching my sister nod demurely as she's introduced to a cluster of doctors. Her pearl earrings catch the light when she tilts her head, a gesture I recognize from childhood or tell when she's about to stretch the truth. The Collins Clinic has been serving our community for 30 years, she says, voice pitched perfectly between pride and humility. We specialize in family medicine with some geriatric care. Michael touches my elbow, drawing my attention to the conversation unfolding beside us. A silver-haired woman in an elegant pantsuit studies my name badge. Med Nova? Her eyes widen. You're Amber Collins? Your presentation at last month's medical summit was brilliant. The patient monitoring system you've developed is changing post-surgical recovery protocols across 3 states now. 4, actually, I smile. We just finalized implementation with Northwestern's hospital network. Across the room, Grace fumbles through a response about platelet therapy trends. The doctor questioning her exchanges a subtle glance with his colleague. I thought Stanford's medical program had shifted away from that approach 3 years ago, he says, brow furrowed. Grace's laugh floats a pitch too high. Well, you know how these academic debates go. Some professors hold on to traditional methodologies longer than others. Daniel's expression shifts almost imperceptibly, a tightening around the eyes, a slight withdrawal of his arm from her waist. He's noticing the discrepancy. Amber. The voice behind me belongs to my father. 11 years older, but unmistakable the same commanding tone that once sent me scurrying to answer phones at the clinic after school while Grace practiced piano. You need to leave, he says, positioning himself between me and the rest of the room. You're ruining Grace's day. Michael stiffens beside me, but I place a steadying hand on his arm. I was invited by Daniel, I reply, my voice low but firm. Perhaps you should explain why that upsets you. Father's face reddens. The expensive suit he wears can't disguise the man beneath a small-town doctor whose authority stops at the borders of his own practice. Don't play innocent. You showing up like this, flaunting your whatever company you claim to run. MedNova is hardly a claim, Dennis. Michael steps forward, every inch the Harvard-trained surgeon. The medical technology conference in Boston last month featured your daughter as the keynote speaker. Her monitoring systems are in 27 hospitals nationwide. A nearby guest turns at this, clearly recognizing the company name. Across the room, my mother hovers near Grace, desperately trying to steer Daniel's colleagues away from my direction, her hands fluttering like panicked birds. Too late. The connections are already forming throughout the room, medical professionals recognizing my name, making associations. Leo tugs at my hand. Mom, can I have some cake now? You promised. In a minute, sweetheart. Leo looks past me, eyes fixed on Grace. Is that lady your sister? Does she go to Stanford like you did? Dennis's face drains of color. Before he can respond, Leo continues innocently. You showed me your old college pictures. The red buildings were pretty. Grace has drifted closer. Daniel beside her. Her face freezes at Leo's words. Stanford? Daniel says, looking between us. You went to Stanford too, Amber? Class of 2014, I answer simply. Daniel's colleague, a distinguished cardiologist based on his conversation, turns to Daniel. You didn't mention your wife's sister was Amber Collins. Her work on predictive algorithms for post-surgical complications is revolutionary. Northwestern Medical has reduced readmission rates by 22% using her systems. The weight of 11 years of lies settles visibly on Grace's shoulders. She reaches for Daniel's arm, but he stepped slightly away, his attention now fully on the professional conversation happening around me. Rain drums against my dorm window as I stare at the bank statement, the numbers not computing. My college fund depleted, transferred to an account I don't recognize. The same day, a package arrives from Grace of photos of her spring break in Cancun, the trip I couldn't understand how our family could afford. I shake off the memory, focusing on the present. Daniel has pulled Grace aside, their heated whispers visible from across the ballroom. His face reflects growing confusion, then disbelief, then something harder as she clutches at his sleeve. "You told me you graduated from Stanford," he says, voice rising just enough to carry. "I went there. I've never heard your name mentioned by any of the faculty." Grace's response comes frantically. "It was mostly remote learning, a special program they had for. Stanford Medicine doesn't offer remote degrees." Daniel's voice has gone cold. Never has. Color drains from Grace's face as she realizes her carefully constructed life is beginning to collapse. Her eyes dart around the room, landing on mine with desperation. Daniel steps back from her, straightens his tie, and turns. With deliberate steps, he walks across the ballroom away from Grace, directly toward me. Behind him, Grace's pleading eyes follow, a drowning woman watching her last lifeline walk away. Daniel guides me away from the crowd with a gentle hand on my elbow. His fingers tremble slightly against my skin, the only indication that the poised doctor is rattled. "Let's find somewhere quieter," he says, his voice steady, but his eyes darting back to where Grace stands with my parents, their heads bent together in urgent conversation. We settle in a small alcove at the edge of the ballroom. 2 plush chairs, a small table between us. The muted lighting casts shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of confusion etched there. "I apologize for the awkwardness," he begins, straightening his bow tie. His words trail off, uncertain how to frame the chasm of questions between us. "You didn't know Grace had a sister." I finish for him, keeping my voice neutral. Daniel's eyes widen. "She mentioned a sister once, but said you dropped out of college after a semester, that you couldn't handle the pressure and disappeared." The old wound throbs, but I don't flinch. Years of boardroom negotiations have taught me to keep my face composed even when bleeding internally. "I graduated summa cum laude," I say simply, "while working 3 jobs." 3 jobs? His brow furrows. Mornings at a coffee shop, evenings at the hospital reception desk, weekends at a call center. The memories flood back the bone. Deep exhaustion, falling asleep over textbooks, the relentless push forward. I put myself through school part-time. No family support. Each word lands like a stone between us, ripples spreading outward. Daniel's expression shifts from confusion to calculation, the surgeon's analytical mind reassessing everything he thought he knew. "Stanford?" he asks, naming his alma mater. I shake my head. "Community college first, then State University." I couldn't afford Stanford after I discovered my college fund had been. I pause, choosing my words carefully. "Reallocated." To Grace's education, he concludes, the pieces clicking into place. The ballroom around us blurs as memories surface sleeping on Sarah's lumpy couch for 6 months, showering at the YWCA when Jamie's boyfriend kicked me out, eating ramen for weeks straight to save for textbooks. The humiliation of asking professors for extensions because I couldn't stay awake after triple shifts. The hospital where I worked reception, I continue. That's where I met Michael. He was a resident then. I remember that night clearly hunched over healthcare administration textbooks during my dinner break, exhaustion pulling at my eyelids. Michael stopping at my desk, curious about the complex diagrams I'd sketched in the margins. "You understand Kellerman's patient flow theory?" he'd asked, surprised. "It's flawed," I'd replied without looking up. "The bottleneck isn't intake, it's documentation requirements between departments." He'd pulled up a chair, and we'd talked until my break ended. The next day, he brought coffee and questions about my ideas for streamlining patient monitoring. Within months, we were developing the prototype that would become MedNova's cornerstone product. Daniel leans forward. And MedNova? Grace mentioned you worked some office job. I can't help the small smile that touches my lips. We started in our apartment 7 years ago. Last quarter's revenue was just under $400 million. Across the room, I spot my parents flanking Grace like sentinels. Dennis paces small circles, his face flushed with anger, while Margaret clutches Grace's arm, her knuckles white with tension. They cast frantic glances our way, whispering urgently. They're going to try to separate us soon, I say calmly. Daniel follows my gaze. They appear concerned. Michael approaches us, phone discreetly positioned at his side. I recognize his strategy documenting behavior while appearing casual. A protective measure we've learned after years of navigating hostile business environments. Everything all right here? He asks, his surgeon's eyes performing a quick assessment of my well-being. Just catching up, I reply, gratitude warming my chest. The man standing beside me, steady, brilliant, can seize me as I am, not as my family's convenient narrative. On cue, Margaret bustles toward us, her voice pitched to Carrie. Daniel, there's someone from Boston General dying to meet you. Her eyes slide past me as if I'm invisible. A familiar sensation. Daniel stands his ground. In a moment, Margaret, Amber and I are having an important conversation. My mother's smile stiffens. Always the attention seeker, our Amber. She turns to the nearest cluster of guests. She's always been jealous of her sister's accomplishments. The statement hangs in the air like smoke, acrid and choking. Several guests shift uncomfortably, eyes darting between us. I remain seated, back straight, face composed. Michael's hand rests on my shoulder, a silent anchor. When the bathroom door swings closed behind me 20 minutes later, I'm not surprised to find Grace already inside, reapplying mascara with trembling hands. Our eyes meet in the mirror. Why are you doing this to me? She demands, voice breaking on the final word. I wash my hands slowly, deliberately. Doing what exactly? Ruining my wedding, making Daniel question everything. Tears streak her carefully applied makeup. I'm not doing anything, I reply softly. I'm simply existing. Grace slams her mascara wand onto the marble counter. You were supposed to stay gone. For the first time, I see the fear behind her anger, the terror of a house of cards beginning to collapse. They told everyone you were a dropout, she continues, words tumbling out like a confession. That you couldn't handle responsibility. That you were… And yet here I am, I interrupt, handling quite a lot. When I emerge from the bathroom, my composure is intact. I return to Michael's side, to the warmth of his hand finding mine. Grace follows minutes later, makeup freshly applied, but something essential has shattered behind her eyes. I notice it immediately, the subtle shift in the room. Wedding guests gradually drifting toward us, drawn by genuine curiosity. A neurosurgeon discussing patient monitoring innovations with Michael. A hospital administrator slipping me her card. Your post-operative monitoring system reduced our complication rates by 30%, she tells me. We'd love to explore expanding its implementation. Daniel stands at my elbow, attentive to the conversation, asking insightful questions about MedNova's technology. His new bride hovers at the periphery, unmoored. Father approaches, shoulders squared for battle. Daniel, he interrupts loudly, this is Grace's wedding. Let's focus on her accomplishments. The silence that follows fills the room like water, drowning everything else. All eyes flick between Daniel and Dennis, then to Grace, whose smile stretches thin across her face. No one speaks. No one needs to. Sometimes silence holds more truth than any words could express. I hand my half-empty champagne flute to a passing server and check my watch. We've stayed long enough. Michael catches my eye across the room where he's extricating himself from a conversation with an enthusiastic orthopedic surgeon. His slight nod confirms we're on the same wavelength, as always. Are we leaving now? Leo tugs at my hand, hope brightening his eyes. Swimming pool time? Yes, buddy, just one more thing. I pull a small cream-colored envelope from my clutch. Inside rests a certificate for MedNova stock, not life-changing money, but enough to make a statement. This is who I am now, not the desperate girl they threw away. Michael joins us, his hand finding the small of my back. Ready? Almost. I scan the room for Daniel. The poor man deserves some courtesy on his wedding day, even if his in-laws don't. We find him near the bar, watching Grace with an expression I recognize too well, the first hints of doubt creeping into what should be certainty. My sister works the room with practiced charm, but now I notice how she flinches slightly when medical terms enter the conversation, how quickly she redirects. We're heading out, I tell Daniel, offering the envelope. Congratulations again. He takes it with genuine warmth. Thank you for coming, especially considering. His eyes drift toward my parents, who hover nearby like vultures circling wounded prey. I appreciate the invitation. I mean it. Closing this chapter matters more than I realized. Daniel leans closer, voice dropping. I'd like to visit MedNova sometime. Professionally. Our eyes meet, understanding passing between us without words. He knows. Maybe not everything, but my assistant will set it up. I offer my business card, aware of Grace watching us, her smile cracking at the edges like old porcelain. Mother glides toward us, social armor firmly in place. Amber was always so driven, she tells a nearby guest with calculated lightness. Of course, she had advantages we couldn't provide Grace. The blatant reversal of truth would have wounded me once. Now it's almost comical. What advantages were those, Mrs. Collins? Michael asks innocently. The 3 jobs while putting herself through night school or sleeping on friends' couches after you took her tuition money? Mother's face hardens, but a cluster of Daniel's colleagues has drifted within earshot. She retreats a step, recalculating. Leo looks up at me, confusion clouding his face. Aren't those people your family, Mom? The question silences everyone within hearing distance. Simple, direct, unintentionally devastating. I kneel to his level. They're relatives, buddy. Family is different. Father chooses this moment to approach, puffing up his chest like he did when I was young and easily intimidated. You can't just waltz back into our lives and... I'm not interested in walking back into anything. My voice cuts through his bluster with quiet finality. I'm not here to expose you or reconcile with you. I built my own life, which is exactly what you forced me to do when you showed me the door. The image flashes unbidden. Rain soaking through my jacket, the weight of my suitcase, the terrifying freedom of having nothing left to lose. Behind me, Leo fidgets with his bow tie again. Michael rests his hand on our son's shoulder, steadying him the way he steadied me all those years ago when I thought I'd drown. Thank you, I tell my parents, causing them to blink in confusion. Thank you for not giving me a chance. You made me build my own. Mother's face contorts between rage and social preservation. For once, she finds no words. I take Leo's hand. Michael falls into step beside us as we make our exit unhurried, dignified, complete. No dramatic declarations, no tearful scenes, just the quiet power of walking away whole. Whispers follow us like gentle rain, but unlike that night 11 years ago, they don't touch me. I've built an umbrella of accomplishment that shields me from their storms. In the lobby, Leo breaks free and spins with childish delight. Pool time. 10 minutes to change, and I'll meet you there, Michael tells him, tousling his hair. As we cross toward the elevators, I catch our reflection in the polished marble walla family of three, solid and connected. Behind us, through the ballroom doors, I glimpse Daniel watching our departure, then turning back to his new bride with new questions in his eyes. Some weddings mark beginnings. This one marks an ending, the final release of expectations I never needed to fulfill, approval I no longer seek, and pain I refuse to carry forward. Leo punches the elevator button with enthusiastic determination. Up we go. Yes, up we go indeed. Sunlight angles through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, casting long shadows across the polished concrete floors. 1 month has passed since Grace's wedding, but the memory still lurks in corners of my mind like a half-forgotten dream. I scan the partnership proposal from Boston Memorial, a contract worth 8 figures sprawled across my desk. MedNova's patient monitoring system reduced post-surgical complications by 37% in their trial run. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't play favorites. My assistant Meredith's voice crackles through the intercom. Dr. Daniel Brooks is here to see you. My pen stills against paper. I hadn't spoken to my sister's husband since that night. Send him in. Daniel enters like a man carrying invisible weight. His shoulders curl forward, suit jacket wrinkled at the elbows. Dark circles shadow his eyes. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. He stands awkwardly until I gesture toward the chair opposite my desk. Coffee? I offer. He shakes his head. I can't stay long. I wait. Experience has taught me the power of silence. I've consulted with a lawyer about annulment possibilities. The words tumble out like stones. Everything Grace told me was fabricated. She never attended Stanford. She never managed your parents' clinic. She's the receptionist. I absorbed this without surprise. The lies were always there, waiting for someone to notice. I'm sorry to hear that, I say, and mean it. Your parents made her the face of their practice while they... His voice trails off as he runs a hand through disheveled hair. The billing practices at their clinic, they've been charging Medicare for procedures never performed, using outdated codes deliberately. Grace helped them do it. The revelation lands like a slap, not because it's shocking, but because it confirms suspicions I buried years ago. I didn't mean to drag you back into this, Daniel continues. But when I started investigating Grace's background, I found patterns, discrepancies. Your name kept appearing in old clinic records, then vanishing completely 11 years ago. The skyline beyond my window shimmers in summer heat. I built this view from nothing, while they built their lives on fabrications. They used my college fund for Grace, I say simply. When I confronted them, they told me I wasn't Stanford material anyway. Daniel winces. The irony is, I never wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to improve medical systems, make them more efficient, more accurate. You've done that, Daniel says, glancing around my office. MedNova is transforming post-surgical care across the country. A silence stretches between us, comfortable in its honesty. The clinic is being investigated, he finally says. I submitted anonymous information to the proper authorities after discovering the extent of the fraud. They've been doing this for nearly 15 years. 15 years. Beginning right around the time I left for college. My phone buzzes with a text from Michael. Picking up Leo early. Zoo day. Join us? A warmth spreads through my chest. This is my real family now. What will you do? I ask Daniel. He straightens his shoulders. File for annulment. Cooperate with investigators. Start over. He hesitates. I came to apologize for my unwitting role in reconnecting you with your past. And to ask, do you plan to get involved in the investigation? The question hangs between us, heavy with implication. I could destroy them completely. One phone call from the CEO of MedNova to the Medicare fraud investigators would accelerate everything. No, I say finally. I built my life separate from theirs. I intend to keep it that way. Relief washes across his face. Thank you for seeing me. After Daniel leaves, I stand at my window, watching traffic flow 40 stories below. My phone vibrates with a voicemail notification. Grace's number, the third this week. Michael calls as I'm gathering my things to meet them at the zoo. You sound tired, he says. Daniel Brooks came to see me. The family clinic is under investigation for Medicare fraud. A pause. Are you okay? Yes. The answer surprises me with its truth. Are you going to get involved? I watch a red-tailed hawk circle the skyscrapers, riding thermals with effortless grace. I was thinking about what you said last week, about how my success is already their greatest punishment. I stand by that, Michael says, but it's your choice. My computer chimes with an incoming email. An attorney representing the Medicare Fraud Investigation Division, requesting information about my time at Collins Family Practice. Attached are documents requiring my testimony. They want me to testify, I tell Michael. What will you do? I consider the question. Part of me wants to delete the email, refuse the request. Let whatever happens to them happen without my fingerprints anywhere near it. Another part remembers patients who trusted them. Elderly men and women whose Medicare benefits were stolen. I'll forward them copies of the clinic's original records from when I worked there, I decide. Nothing more, nothing less, just the facts. I'm proud of you, Michael says. My phone buzzes again. Another voicemail from Grace. Her third today. The first one begged for money. The second threatened to tell Leo the truth about his mother. I don't need to hear the third. I press delete without listening, the small action surprisingly final. Leo wants to see the new tiger cubs, Michael says, his voice a welcome anchor to my real life. Tell him I'm on my way. I gather my bag, pausing at the door to look back at my office. The Boston Memorial contract waits on my desk, another hospital ready to implement the system I built from nothing but determination and long nights. I close the door behind me, leaving Grace's voicemail in digital oblivion where it belongs. Some debts can never be repaid. Some wounds never fully heal. But I've learned that moving forward doesn't require forgiveness. Sometimes it just requires letting go. The purple coneflowers bend toward sunlight. I pinch back another spent bloom, adding it to the collection in my palm. 6 months have passed since the wedding. 6 months of breathing easier, like finally stepping out of shoes that never quite fit. Leo races between the raised beds, his Batman cape fluttering behind him. Mom, can I water the tomatoes? Start with the peppers, I tell him, pointing to the drooping leaves. They're thirsty today. He grabs his small watering can, tongue poking out the corner of his mouth as he concentrates on not spilling. The mid-May sun warms my shoulders through my t-shirt, no designer labels here, just comfort in my own space. Michael appears at the patio door, 3 glasses of lemonade balanced on a tray. Reinforcements, he calls, descending the steps into our modest garden. His surgeon's hands, the same ones that perform delicate heart valve replacements now, pass lemonade to our son with exaggerated ceremony. Thank you, good sir. Leo responds with a wobbly bow that nearly spills his drink. Michael's eyes meet mine over Leo's head. The unspoken conversation passes between us. This is what matters. This garden, this boy, this life we built from nothing but determination and truth. The Davis Hospital Board approved the patient monitoring system. Michael says casually, though we both know what this means. The 5th major hospital chain to adopt MedNova's technology this year alone. Thousands more patients who will recover safely because of what we created. That's number 5, Leo announces proudly, counting on his fingers. Mom's helping all the sick people get better faster. I ruffle his hair, amazed at how he absorbs everything. That's the idea, buddy. The doorbell chimes from inside. Michael raises an eyebrow. Expecting something? FedEx, probably. Those component samples from Switzerland. But when Michael returns, his expression has shifted. He holds a certified letter, the return address visible even from where I stand. Grace Collins, Brooks. My stomach tightens, the familiar knot I thought I'd finally untangled. I'll be in my office. The envelope sits on my desk for 17 minutes, while I finish reviewing quarterly projections. Michael leans against the doorframe, silent support. When I finally slit it open, a single sheet of cream-colored stationery slides out, covered in Grace's careful handwriting. Amber, the clinic closed last month. Not because of anything you did, because of everything Mom and Dad did. The investigation found billing irregularities going back 15 years. Daniel left me. He said he couldn't build a life with someone he couldn't trust. He was right. I'm not writing to ask for money. I know better now. I'm writing because I need to tell you that you were never the problem. I was raised to believe your intelligence threatened mine. Your independence undermined my security. I believed them when they said cutting you off necessary. I was wrong, they were wrong, and I'm sorry. Grace. Michael doesn't ask what it says. He waits until I fold the letter and place it back in its envelope. What will you do? He asks. Nothing dramatic, I answer, turning to my computer. I open a document, type for several minutes, then print a single page. I slide it into a Mednova envelope with the letter I've written. 2 weeks later, I stand at the edge of the American Medical Technology Conference in Chicago, watching my team demonstrate our latest innovations to a crowd of healthcare professionals. The red Mednova booth draws attention, our reputation preceding us now. A flash of movement catches my eye, someone in pale blue scrubs near the education pavilion. Grace, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, listens intently to a speaker discussing entry-level medical coding certification. Our eyes meet across the crowded exhibition hall. No gasps this time, no drama, just quiet recognition. She holds the Mednova internship application I sent her, clutched like a lifeline. I offer a small nod, not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. She returns it, eyes bright with something that might be determination. We don't approach each other. Some relationships are completed, not continued. That evening, I finalized the paperwork for the Collins first-generation medical scholarship. Not named for my parents, but reclaiming my birth name for something better. 20 students without family support will receive full tuition and mentorship next fall. Back home, I kneel in our garden again, digging small holes for new seedlings. Leo helps, his small hands patting soil around tender roots. Some plants don't grow well next to others, I explain, showing him how to space the seedlings. They need their own space to thrive. Like people? He asks, surprisingly perceptive. Smart boy, I whisper, kissing his forehead. Yes, like people. The sun slants golden across our yard. Through the kitchen window, I see Michael preparing dinner, moving easily through the space we've created together. I press another seed into the dark earth, covering it gently. Some roots you're given, others you get to choose.